Hey, what's happening? So today, I'm coming out of the closet. People closest to me have probably thought for a while that I was like this, and some other people who maybe don't know me so well, they'll probably be pretty surprised by this. But, I haven't admitted to it on social media, and I figured, why not do it today? It's my time to shine. I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I'm an atheist. And in celebration of my coming out, I'm going to be responding to a video by a channel called End of Atheism. Now, that's the name of the channel, not the video. The video has an absurdly long title. I'll probably break this up into 2 or 3 parts and upload them separately, with some space of time in between. So, this one was fun to make, so I might make more of these in the future. So let's begin. Who designed the designer? Best atheist arguments refuted. End of atheism.
The God Delusion dismantled. From the stars above us to the evolution of life, from an amoeba to the 21st century human, all of it begs the age-old question.
Oh, I'm sure this guy knows all about begging the question.
Just how did we get here? Was it simply a giant stroke of cosmic luck?
Why is it necessarily luck that things are the way they are? Can't they just be the way they are? I mean, it's quite possible that the universe we live in is the only universe that could possibly exist. Sounds to me like you're deliberately referring to an atheistic universe as
simply a giant stroke of cosmic luck,
in an attempt to invalidate it. Well, it's not working on me. You're gonna have to actually make some points.
Or perhaps the work of a conscious designer.
You can reasonably assume how I would answer this question.
The latest high-profile reply was from Professor Richard Dawkins in his internationally best-selling book, The God Delusion. In it, he claims to come close to proving that God almost certainly does not exist.
Ah, Richard Dawkins. I like this guy. Haven't read his books, but I've seen his documentaries and absorbed enough from the cultural ethos to know what this guy's all about. I just want to say that I greatly admire him as a scientist, as an author, and as a speaker who had the balls to bring atheism into the forefront and make it more okay to be an atheist in our society. But I don't agree with everything he has to say, which you'll see in a minute.
And you can boil his argument down into 3 simple steps.
For the purposes of this video, I am going to assume that this guy represents Dawkins' arguments fairly and objectively. Although this is not a reasonable assumption to make, given how he referred to a universe without God as
simply a giant stroke of cosmic luck.
I swear that's the last time I'll repeat that clip.
Step 1. The universe is a tapestry of incredible order, complexity, and harmony. Just the Earth itself is filled with highly ordered, and therefore highly improbable life forms.
Okay, I don't really agree with Dawkins on this one. Yes, you could view the laws of physics as a kind of order, and yes, you could view the results of evolution as improbable, but that's just a way of looking at it. I mean, to our human brains, it all looks very complex and harmonious, but that doesn't mean that it actually is. There's a chance that extraterrestrials exist, and they could be much more intelligent than us. Maybe to them, it all appears very simple and disorganized. Our viewpoint may be correct, but we can't say for sure. We shouldn't base logic on perception. At least that's how I feel as an existentialist. And also, I have a few misgivings about
highly ordered, and therefore highly improbable.
There's a lot that could be said about that, but I spent enough time on the first step, so let's just get to the next one.
Step 2. We could say that this is all the product of a designer, such as God, but then we must ask, who designed the designer? So, invoking God simply won't solve anything.
Yeah, it follows from the first step, and even though I disagree with the first step, I like this one. Let's see what the next step is, the final step.
Step 3. We probably don't need a designer anyway. Biologists have shown that natural selection created the highly complex life we know on Earth. Now we just wait for physicists to discover some kind of natural law that tells us how the universe came to be so complex in the first place, and voila, goodbye God.
Now, I really like that step. That's what interests me. I want to learn more about that. But instead, let's just see the problem this guy has with these steps.
Dawkins' argument hinges around step 2. In step 2, he suggests that everything that is ordered requires a previous designer. But this isn't true. After all, atheists themselves believe that the universe doesn't need a designer, but claim that God does. Whereas theists say that the universe needs a designer, but God doesn't. So where should we stop? Is the universe undesigned, or is God undesigned?
All right. First, he claims to know what atheists and theists believe about whether God needs a designer. This is gross oversimplification. What I, as an atheist, and I don't pretend to represent all atheists, think is that indeed the universe does not need a designer. And if there were a God, whose existence I highly doubt, but do not utterly dismiss, that God would be so powerless in our everyday lives, so lacking in evidence, that it would be pointless to believe in it, especially to worship it and become a member of any of the world's most popular religions. And why would you want to worship it anyway? That God would be the universe's equivalent of a deadbeat dad. Created you and then pieced the fuck out of your life. Oh, and as far as God needing to have a designer, I think the logic provided by Dawkins makes enough sense to me, but I don't firmly hold to it. I could be convinced otherwise. Hell, I am the target audience of this video, a mind that can be changed. Let's see if you can do it.
To untangle this...
Untangle this? Untangle? What's so tangled about it? You just disgustingly oversimplified the views of atheists and theists with no regard for nuance, and now you're going to treat that as if it's a tangled mess? Seems simple to me. Here's what this guy thinks, and here's what this guy thinks. Here's why the first guy is wrong. I mean, there's nothing to untangle here. Although it should have been tangled, had you been more honest in your representation of what people believe and don't believe.
To untangle this, we have to ask, when is a designer needed for anything?
Oh, this ought to be good.
We require a designer when we find that something highly improbable has occurred, which we cannot simply put down to chance.
Wrong. We require a designer when we find evidence that points to a designer. The fact that you find something improbable does not count as evidence.